Well, gun control didn't come up much during the federal election campaign, but it's sure to come up in the next little while. Why? Well, promises made in the Liberal campaign platform and promises made on the campaign trail by leader Justin Trudeau. Tony Bernardo is with the Canadian Shooting Sports Association. He sent out a team update email the other day that outlined concerns of the CSSA. He joins me now. Tony, my big concern, and I said this during the campaign, you read what the Liberals have promised everyone, and it will amount to, in effect, a gun registry in the future. What are your concerns with what gun enthusiasts should be concerned about in the coming months and years?
Well, I fear that we're never going to actually get to a gun registry. They have promised to implement the United Nations marking system, a completely useless waste of time and energy that will eventually result in the closure of about 3/4 of the entire Canadian gun industry. This is very, very serious stuff.
They've also promised that. Hold on. Let's pause there.
Okay.
Why would the UN marking system, which was promised, if memory serves, it was promised by the previous Liberal government before Stephen Harper came in and never implemented by them or by Harper, right?
Right, that's correct. And it is actually law in Canada right now. It is the law.
But they've just not been doing it. So why would this force the shutdown?
Well, because what has to happen is the firearms importers in the country, most of the guns in Canada are imported. There's only a couple of indigenous manufacturers. And when these guns come into Canada, they want them to be marked with a special importer marking on the receiver of the firearm. And technically, it's extremely difficult to do this. For its warranties, it's unbelievably expensive. And the price of a firearm, if you can do it at all, will go up anywhere from $200 up.
Per firearm?
Per firearm.
Okay, so then that makes it less than economical. It would, drive many enthusiasts out of purchasing, but there would still be guns in Canada, no?
No, that's the problem, is that most of the companies that are importing into Canada simply can't afford to do it. It is really expensive to acquire the equipment and the people required to do this. The cost of this is just unbelievable.
Okay, and perhaps that will come first. Why I've been saying a future gun registry is the other UN system that they want to bring in, and that is the Arms Trade Treaty, which the Harper government wisely stayed away from. Barack Obama and the Americans signed it, but they haven't even attempted to ratify it in Congress, so it's null and void in the States.
Right.
That calls for being able to trace end users of firearms, right?
That is correct. There's end user agreements on everything in the Arms Trade Treaty, and even worse, every 6 years, all the signatories of the Arms Trade Treaty get together, and any change can be made to the treaty with a 3/4 majority vote of the countries attending the conference. That means 3/4 of the despotic holes in the world get to vote on what Canada's domestic firearms laws are. Mm-hmm. This is scary as hell.
I mean, it's put forward as trying to keep guns out of the hands of dictators.
Right.
I think Canada already does a good job of that with its own internal laws, no?
Indeed, we do. We have very, very high standards. In fact, if we were to adopt the standards that the UN is asking us to adopt, we're actually lowering our standards.
Beyond those two agreements, the UN documents, UN agreements, what is there that has you worried in the Liberal policy from a domestic point of view? I saw a story from CBC and their access to information specialist, Dean Beebe, who seems to be very selective in what he'll expose and what he won't, but he found a piece in the RCMP saying, hey, we need to change the law because you can change certain semi-automatics to automatics, and so we need to change all this. That's already illegal, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. 10 years prison sentence.
Okay, so is this what's really behind that push then? In that, because to me, I read that article and I said, this is setting the table for a future Liberal government to enact some kind of gun control. What's your read on that?
Well, okay, the Liberals said very, very clearly through the election that while they had no desire to bring back a gun registry, at least that's what they said that they would accomplish their gun control ends by selective reclassifications and tightening screening on who's allowed to own firearms. Now, to me, that translates in English to A, gun bans, and B, firearms prohibitions. This is the beginning of the gun bans. Now, by doing this, they're saying that there are 6 models of firearms, which they don't identify in the story, but we have a very good idea of what those 6 models are. And what they're trying to do is ban these. Now, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of legally owned and non-restricted firearms. So they're not in any registry right now.
So if this RCMP proposal,
right,
an organization still yet to answer for High River as far as I'm concerned.
Yep.
If this proposal comes forward and the Liberals say, yes, you're right, let's do something, you think that they will say on something like the SKS or the Tavor or some of the other firearms, they'll just say, all right, those are now prohibited?
Yes, that's correct.
Even though to change them, even through this trick on the internet, which is obviously posted somewhere where it's not illegal to do this, even to do that, it would amount to a 10-year prison term.
That's correct. And they also acknowledge in the report that they have never had a single criminal case of this happening in Canada. Not one.
It's frustrating as I watch the tough on crime agenda for the Conservatives go through. The argument always was, oh, what about this? What about that? Look at the statistics. There's no need for this. There's very little of that. Here we have something where there's zero of it, and my concern is they're going to act on it because of a worldview that says citizens having guns is not the best idea.
Yeah, that's right. And, the RCMP have been antagonistic in this regard for a long time. One of the things that's got to scare you in the Liberals' planned policy is that they say that they're going to take the decisions about gun laws away from the politicians and give them to police. Now, that is terrifying if you live in a democracy, Brian. The police aren't supposed to make our laws. We elect politicians to go to the House of Commons and make laws on our behalf. The police enforce them. They don't get to make them.
Tony, this is part of my problem with the entire progressive agenda. It's about let experts make the decision, let arm's length organizations make the decision. It's always about removing authority and responsibility from the people that we elect and send to Ottawa or Queen's Park or the provincial capitals across the country. It's let the experts decide. No, you can't hold experts accountable. You can't hold the RCMP accountable.
No.
I've tried to get a hold of some of the people that have made these decisions in the past, and they've said no. One of the things they're also proposing is bringing back the hall pass, right? You're going to need a hall pass again to transport, the authority to transport.
Yeah. Well, and the things they wrote in their policy statement just proves how absolutely uneducated, virtually illiterate they are as to what the gun laws are in Canada. They said you don't need any permit to move a firearm. Well, of course, that's ridiculous. Of course you do. It's just electronic. Hey, welcome to 2015. It's an electronic permit, not a paper one anymore. The second thing they said was they want to make it a law so that when you purchase a firearm, you have to show your firearms license. Hello? We've had that now for over 25 or 30 years.
Yeah.
That's not new, but it shows the complete lack of knowledge that these legislators have when it comes to firearms laws. They're absolutely scary. There's nothing worse with people with too little knowledge.
I know one of the problems that you've been having is an uptick in people seeking membership. I'm guessing they're feeling worried and that they need someone to lobby them. Are you going to be listened to as a lobby group?
Yes, I think so. The CSSA has always been factual and reasonable, and we try to present our arguments in as credible a manner as we possibly can. People are joining the association in droves right now because, frankly, they're scared. And double frankly, they should be, because this is not going to end well.
All right. Well, we don't know who's going to be in cabinet yet, but I'm guessing that you'll be trying to get the ear of the public safety minister whenever we find out who that is.
Indeed.
In the meantime, do you think that there are officials in the department that are open to hearing? I mean, not the political appointees that were around the past minister, Stephen Blaney, but are there officials in the department, or are they? Do you feel that the bureaucrats are of the gun-grabbing variety?
The bureaucrats are the worst of the problem.
Okay.
They're the ones driving this whole thing. They're the ones that prevented Stephen Blaney from making substantive changes. Every single thing that the government wanted to do that would benefit firearms owners, or even Canadians, and for that matter, was resisted by the bureaucrats in every way possible.
All right. Well, it's going to be interesting times, Tony. Where can people find out more?
Well, they can go to our website. It's CSSA-CILA.org. They can send an email to us and get information. They can join the association online. They can sign up for our e-newsletter. There's lots of things they can do, but we have lots of action plans, and if people would like to get involved, we'd love to have them.
All right. And of course, you can always check back here at TheRebel.Media, where we cover gun issues a little bit differently than the other guys. Tony Bernardo, thanks so much.
Thank you for telling the truth, Brian.